All right, are we live?
Yes, indeed.
We are live. All right. Welcome everyone. Today, this is one of my favorite topics is root cause because spending the majority of my professional career in functional health and wellness, we always look toward or look for the root cause. There's surface level symptoms and then there's the deeper why. And this is applicable to all things life and leadership. So, Darren, our fearless leader, our CEO of the Candlo Group, and myself, the COO and executive coach for women's leadership, are going to talk to you about how we see our clients, individuals, even ourselves within our relationship. We see people talking about the symptoms. And what we know to be true is that unless you get underneath, you're never going to, as we said in our LinkedIn Live, right? You're never going to be able to stop the wound. You're not going to be able to stop the hemorrhaging. We're just putting surface level band-aids on bullet wounds. So as we do, we start every live with a really bad dad joke. So Darren, take it away.
I think you're going to like this one. It's a little more inappropriate.
Oh boy.
Did I tell you I joined a nudist colony? The first
No.
week was really hard.
Do you think that's going to pass the LinkedIn police?
I mean, come on, that's PG-ish for adults.
That is PG-ish for
What'd you
sure.
think? I think I'm going to try to surprise you with the jokes more than you know them ahead of time. Did you like that one?
That was a good one. Yeah, I think I do remember hearing that one. Hey, is there a way for you to turn up your volume on your microphone?
Let's see. Am I not
Oh,
using the
that was
right?
a little bit better. Whatever you just did there.
I don't know what I didn't do anything.
Oh, okay. Maybe I just shoved these giant earbuds deeper into my ears. I feel like I'm speaking in an echo chamber. All right, that was a good joke. I'll
Thank
give it
you.
to you because, we're not the most appropriate adults that you'll ever meet at all. All right, so let's talk about putting band-aids on bullet wounds, surface level fixes. You as my life and business partner, right? How we met was you actually came in as a client 8 years ago, and you had experienced a client for nutrition therapy and functional medicine, and you had experienced over and over and over again people telling you, basically giving you band-aids, right? For all the health issues that you were experiencing. And I think I was the first person that said to you, like, well, there's an underlying problem here. You don't just have heartburn. There's an underlying reason why you have heartburn. If we can fix that, then all the symptoms go away. So, not that we're going to sit here and talk about functional medicine the whole time, but we have learned in our relationship together that there's always something deeper. And then with our clients, 100%, because it's so much easier to see it in other people, there's always something deeper. And that's the key to understanding great life and leadership, experiencing having a great life, health, and leadership. Okay, so what are you seeing out there? Or what's
That's a
your
good. That's
back to you,
that's
Darren?
a great
I
lob.
feel like I just yelled into the microphone.
I feel like all right. So a couple of things I think are important. Number one is the way you and I get through a cause is different. Um, And I wonder again if this is a sex thing. We've talked in some of the lives
A
past about
gender
it.
thing?
Gender thing. Thank you. Thank you. A
Yeah,
gender
you're
thing.
still thinking about your dad joke.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Uh, Gender thing. And what I notice about you when you get to root cause is that it is a little bit more to the root. And I feel like the clients that you tell me about, not by name, but when we talk about it, you talk about how they are also willing to get to the root. For me, as a human, and also a lot of my clients, sometimes we're a little bit resistant to expose that root. And so our way of getting to it is a little bit more roundabout. And the way I always describe it for leaders and my clients is that when we're unsure about something or we're resistant to it or hesitant or whatever the thing is, sometimes what it comes down to is a lack of experience. And the only way to get the experience is to do something, experiment, learn, and then from that learning, we gain confidence. Where I'm going with this is sometimes with my clients, the way we get to the root cause is it's not a hack, which I know you hate, but the way we get to it is by doing something that then exposes something else that then illuminates, oh, I see. And I don't have a great example. I mean, I always go to like time management or maybe conflict resolution is a good one because it comes up a lot. And what happens is people will say, I'm hesitant to speak up, or I'm hesitant to keep my mouth shut. And so their tendency is to always be quiet or always to talk. You and I are maybe a little bit of a case in point to some extent. And it's until that we start to experiment with not talking that we learn what it's like to hear. And then from hearing, when we start to listen, we hear different things. And often from those wherewithals or those ahas, then it goes back to something, some root, childhood thing, an early life experience, early work experience. So very long-winded way to say is, even though we're both direct communicators, I think you do it a little more directly and I do it a little more roundabout.
Okay, you kind of lost me there.
Thanks.
I kind of zoned out a little bit too, I'm not going to lie. I wasn't listening very well. I was trying to think about what you were saying and relating it to myself or my clients. And so what do you mean by I get there more direct and you get there more roundabout?
In a lot of the conversations, when you talk about your clients, they too want Band-Aids, it seems. Right? Tell me what to eat. What supplements am I going to take? How am I going to clear my calendar? I just need to do this thing so I have more time at home. And with your clients, a lot of times it seems like that's what they bring to you and you don't even play around with it. And you're just like, it's not your calendar, right? It's the way that you partner with your spouse. It's the fact that you say yes to everything at work and you say yes to everything at home, and then you don't have proper support. So what I see from your clients, or at least what you described, is it's a little more linear and direct. With my clients, it's not so obvious, at least to me, in what I hear from them, is they'll share stories of not speaking up, but it's not clear why necessarily. It's not tied to something obvious. There's something not necessarily deeper, but maybe better hidden. Maybe that's a way to say it. Oh, does that make sense?
To summarize, what I heard you say is that I'm a better coach than you than to getting to the root cause of the problem more directly.
Sure, babe.
No. This is, that makes more sense. That was a little bit of a dig on you.
I know.
Yeah. So my training and my experience and my education it's been my entire life since college, is to dig into the body and look deeper, look deeper, look deeper. And that body means not just the physical body, but also the mind. And you're right. Most people want a surface level solution, which is why Ozempic and GLP-1s are so popular right now. Who wouldn't want a quick fix, right? You take the shot, all of a sudden you start losing a ton of weight, but you're never really addressing the underlying reason of why isn't your body able to lose weight? Why do you have chronic inflammation? Why do you have uncontrollable urges? Why is your A1C and your blood sugar off? Like all of those things. Nobody's looking at addressing that. We're just going to fix this surface level problem. And so when my clients come to me, which is life, health, leadership, it doesn't happen for me where I just take what they say at face value and say, well, let's work on that. Because that's like the Ozempic of your life. That's the hack. And I'm not saying like, let's make life a little bit easier and do what we can to reduce some symptoms and take some pressure off so you don't feel as anxious and frustrated and confused during the process, those are all great. But unless you're willing to go deeper and address, like the reason why you book your calendar back to back to back to back to back is because when you sit with yourself and you have no space on, right? If it's like, let me phrase it. If you are forced to sit with yourself and there's nothing to occupy you or distract you, you start to feel and hear, and you don't like what you feel and hear for all the reasons that we have talked about, right? You're not happy at home, you're in your 40s with 2 kids, and you feel invisible and unseen and not heard and not supported, and you think like, is this the best my life is going to be? This is all it is. And you're pissed off at maybe your leader and your manager and nobody's hearing you, and you're like all the things. And that becomes too much to look at, but that's the stuff, that's the meat. Because once you can get to that, I'm telling you, the runway clears. It sucks in the process, and not everybody is ready or willing to hear it or to go that deep. But that is the key to figuring out all of the quote unquote symptoms you're experiencing in life, in your health, and in your career. We're long-winded today.
A little bit.
Yeah. So let's do the take 5. Let's go through this. And we always come up with 5 tips, topics to discuss here in our live. And actually, the take 5 came, tell our listeners what the take 5 came from. Talk about root cause.
Well, truth be known is I have been out of sorts the last couple months. I've been grumpy and short-tempered and sharp and unkind and unhappy and all sorts of uns. And one morning I woke up and I got triggered pretty quick. And I think I almost literally said to you, I'm going to go downstairs, I'm going to listen to one song, and I'm going to come up with a different attitude.
Exact words.
Yeah, okay. Well, how about that for memory, right? My brother, Craig, who's 7 years younger than me, when we were younger, my dad had a bunch of jazz albums. And my dad, I don't know if it was directly or indirectly, turned us on to Dave Brubeck. Dave Brubeck has one of the greatest songs of all time called Take 5. It just so happens my brother bought me the vinyl record of that song on the album of Dave Brubeck, and that was the song I listened to. And so it's like comfort food. I love that song. Reminds me of my brother and my dad, and it's just a great jazz song. And sure enough, I went downstairs and took some notes and came up with a different attitude, which is also true, and thought that maybe to keep us on track, we would have take 5. 5 takeaways from these talks. So that's the backstory.
And in full transparency, because we we come on these lives to talk about our life and how we work through our struggles as life and business partners, and how it's so applicable to everything else, right? It's nothing is ever done in a silo, friends. Is the dig on Darren about his coaching was because I have been experiencing or been the recipient of Darren's grouchiness and frustrations and snappiness. And quite frankly, I'm a little pissed and I'm a little done and I'm a little hurt. So I'm taking some below the belt jabs here today, which we're going to figure out the root cause to this, of course, and I'm sure we'll let you all know and dump it out right here for all of you to listen to and either have a good laugh or learn from. So our take 5 today is playing in the kiddie pool, surface level solutions, and not wanting to go in any deeper or not able to or not knowing how to. So Darren, when you're working with your clients and they do come to you and you notice right away it's a surface level solution or it's just surface level thinking, what happens? What do you do?
I was just thinking back, I went through CTI, Coactive Training Institute, for my coaching program, education. And one of the core tenet, one of their 4 core tenets is that is that our clients are naturally creative, resourceful, and whole. And what that means to us in our training is that A, our clients are not broken, they don't need to be fixed. And two, that they are creative enough to recognize, learn, understand, or even have an innate knowing of how to proceed, how to solve their problem, what to experiment with, etc. Just to bring in a comment from the chat here. So Dan Young said, experience says, meet clients where they are, get them what they want while they're educated as to what they need. I'm not reading that row. Experience says, meet clients where they are, get them what they want while they're educated as to what they need. They have to be willing to go on the journey. We can make the willing able, but you can't make the able willing. So as I was reading that, he's right. Yes, I mean, we can't make our clients go deeper if they don't want, right? So sometimes with the shallowness of the kiddie pool, sometimes it is meeting them where it's at, right? Sometimes it's a matter of, oh, you think it's a time management thing? Great. How are we going to affect your time management? What calendar options are we going to do? What meetings are we going to say no to? It's not my saying, but I've had a few clients resonate recently, which is if you say yes to this, you are saying no to that. And that started to come. So my point being is that with Dan's comment, with your question, with the kiddie pool is sometimes the surface level, we have to play with it, splash around, experiment with some things, remove variables, right? Sometimes even though we know it's surface, sometimes we got to play with it. Sometimes we call it out. Sometimes we don't play with it. With our longer standing clients, this is the last point I'll make, is sometimes with our longest standing clients, we know when they're fucking around with kiddie level shit. And that's the directness we can bring. This is surface level. We've already addressed this. This is not the problem. You've talked about time management for 6 months. You really think that's what's going on here?
Yes. This, and look, you and I both, everything we talk about here, we've done it ourselves. We've experimented with it. We have been our client. So when I think about playing in the kiddie pool, like this was me for so long. I did not want to address. I didn't even know how. I don't even know what it was, right? Not right. I hate that filler word. I was not ready or willing to go any deeper. I mean, that's like I told you, I've never been broken up with except for by my therapist. Because she was like, we're done. You are unwilling to go any further or any deeper than like your ankles here. And we're done, which was the best thing that she could have done for me. And it is, I think I will acknowledge, at least with my clients, I can't speak for your clients, but the things that I work with my clients are very deep. We're not talking about just maybe going into a board meeting or being heard in a staff meeting. We're also talking about some significant trauma that maybe caused some of their weight gain or the constant stress that they are experiencing at home, which over time for women, we know can contribute to autoimmune disease, especially Hashimoto's, thyroiditis. Like our bodies just can't handle that. And so I acknowledge that sometimes we just have to be there until we get more comfortable. And like you said, going a little bit deeper, a little bit deeper, a little bit deeper. And I think that's why I work with my clients for so long, is because we're always going a little bit deeper at a safe pace until we can get to some of the root cause. Sometimes it takes years. So let's talk about the thing that really chaps my ass, and that's hacks.
Chaps my ass.
I cannot stand the term like life hacks or nutrition hacks or fitness hacks or leadership hacks. It's like, listen, you can't hack your way through life. There's things you can do to make life easier. But if you hack the important things, you are missing all the lessons. You are missing the struggle and the wisdom that comes with it and the resiliency. If you keep hacking, right? What happens when your hack goes away and it doesn't work anymore? you're hosed. Then you have to figure it out. What happens when you can't stack your calendar to avoid going home or talking about the deep things or really looking at how you feel in your life and your career and your as a parent? You cannot hack your way through the important things. So, this says right here, biggest leadership breakthroughs come from self-awareness, not industry hacks and tactics. What do you think about that?
I agree with that statement. In and of itself, I agree with that statement. And I was thinking about the hacks. I don't have as much passion or distaste for hacks. In some ways, I actually like them. But what resonates with me more is that the hack is only as good as if you use it. And more to the point is, a hack seems to be a short-term fix. And if the hack is that good, then you would think we would adopt it as routine or our standard. It makes me think about how many times I double booked us because I would say yes to everything. And I would say yes before looking at my calendar. So we could say the hack was when you would ask me about my day or whatever, and I'd say, I don't know, my calendar knows, right? That might have been the hack, but over time it became the habit. And now I don't say yes until I look at my calendar. But the hack was covering up the root cause, which is FOMO. Right? There were a couple things going on. One was being adherent to a calendar felt like rigidity to me, and freedom is one of my top values. So I felt like being adherent to a calendar was going against my freedom, which is kind of folly because on the flip side of that is the more I adhere to my calendar, the more free I feel. So that was part of my root cause. And the other piece was I have FOMO. I like being where people are. And so if you ask me something today and someone asks me tomorrow, I'm saying yes to both. And then when the time comes, I'll decide which one I want to do. But that's also not a good way to proceed. I insult people. I stretch myself too thin. I have to apologize. So that whole calendar hack was covering up this deeper thing of the rigidity, freedom, and FOMO.
Yeah, I was just looking up the definition of a life hack, and it's the meaning of a life hack is usually a simple and clever tip or technique for accomplishing some familiar task more easily and efficiently. And I think that's the key there is like a familiar task. We're not talking about big life stuff, leadership things, health, like repairing a health condition. We're talking about things like how can I get the kids to bed more efficiently? Not because I don't want to spend time with them, but because we're like screwing around doing these other things and I'm just wasting my time. Or God, I don't even know hacks because I am just so resistant. Like I try to think of like, what are some of the hacks? Like, this is silly, but I remember this from years ago. I read I don't even know what I read, but it was something about how to be more efficient with like the daily things. And this person said, don't touch your mail more than once. And I was like, what? And then I thought about it. I was like, oh yeah, I take it from the mailbox. Then I put it on the dining room table. And then we have to eat dinner. So then I pick it up again and I move it over to the end of the table. And then I have to wipe the table off. So then I move it over by the phones. And it's like all of that time, the touch points. And I'm sure this is like a Six Sigma, like, industrial and manufacturing, like efficiency thing. And I was like, pick it up once. This is a hack. Pick it up once, go through it. And I don't do this, by the way. I just remember this. So don't hold me to this. Pick it up once, go through it, and be done with it. That's not how you build a career. I mean, there's certain aspects of being more efficient. Of course, we talk about 4Ds. We talk about prioritization. We talk about being more clear with your communication and your agreements and your implicit and explicit expectations so you can get there more quickly, but that's not a hack. That's a system. So I see this with my clients a lot in the like, well, isn't there just something that I can do to like get more energy more quickly? Or isn't there just something I can take to sleep a little bit better? Or isn't there something that I can do to get rid of my menopause belly? Like just give me the pill, give me the fix. And that does not work long term.
What you just said answers a question here. What's up, Willie? Willie Brown, Navy veteran, asked, is it more effective to cure root issues or to adapt to them so they are no longer an issue?
Depends if they're curable or not.
Well, thinking about health, sure. But sometimes root cause is not so much health related. It could be habitual, the way we lead, defensiveness, etc. So I agree. It does depend.
Let's take it from our experience of personally. Will or Willie?
Willie.
Willie. I have do we call it deep-rooted problem? No, that's not even it. Right, I have some fear and anxiety around some things within relationships. And for years, and I don't just mean like, oh, the last 3 years. I mean like since the event happened, since high school, have worked on this particular, let's call it injury, if you will, or the root cause. And so will that ever be cured? And like I said to you, like the last time you went away, I'm like, I can't tell you that this will ever go away for me. I don't know how to, like with all the work that I have done. And so to Willie's point is maybe there's some peace in surrendering to that something is there. And yes, you do work towards it or work with it if you're at the point where it can't be cured. And I'm not saying it can or can't for me, and that's everybody's own like they have to determine that for themselves. So it is like, how do we work with this? How do I live my life and set up systems and not hacks, techniques, and whatever I need to do through trial and error and through practice and through desensitization and to find more peace with it. And then other things, I think, for sure, like can totally be cured if you're willing to do the work. You have to cast a broken arm. You can't just keep taking Advil. I hope that answers Willie's question. What do you think about that question, Darren?
Yeah, I agree. I was listening and thinking, and hopefully I can say this as succinctly as my brain is thinking it, but it's if one has done the work and the exploration to get to root cause, and we've gone as far as we can, we're not getting to the ultimate root cause or have a solution, then yes, I think adapting to them, understanding them, putting in mitigation efforts, whatever it is, makes perfect sense. I think the operative if is, did you go deep enough? Did you fully explore it? Or are you just kind of dismissively, yeah, all right, I have heartburn. I'll just take Prilosec, no worries.
Yeah. What just came to me, not totally on topic, was the whole use of like psychedelics for trauma and to help the brain go deeper than what an individual would otherwise cognitively be able to do on their own, which could be a whole nother LinkedIn Live. So we're not gonna dive into that. But that's just kind of where my brain went. It's like we'll only go as deep as our primitive brain will allow us to go if it thinks it's safe. So, all right, demand dissent. When teams aren't performing, speaking up, innovating, collaborating, the root cause often traces back to leadership behaviors and organizational culture not team capability. What are your thoughts? I love dissenters, so.
Yeah, I meant to look up, maybe when you're talking, I'll go find it. A colleague of mine named Carlene sent me an article that was taken from Adam Grant's book, Adam Grant. And I have to find it, but it was like a naysayers network or a dissenters network or something. And it was based upon my post last week about contrarians. And I forgot Adam's saying, but it was perfect. Anyway, great story, right? Because I have no detail. When I think about teams, we are the sum of our parts. And yes, some of us on a team may be more apt to speak up than others. Some of us may be more extroverted than introverted, which may highlight or display certain behavioral characteristics. But at the core, if the leader has not created a culture where it is safe to disagree, people will not, period. That's what I've experienced. And one of my theories on this whole thing is we still have a primitive brain, which has fight or flight, life or death tendencies. In the old days, we literally ran from saber-toothed tigers. Today, life and death is not that. And one of my theories is that what we replace the saber-toothed tiger with is our livelihood at work. And if I think speaking up is going to possibly influence me getting fired or overlooked for a promotion or puts me in the bad graces of my leaders, I am going to be silent because it is not safe. So the root cause to me of a lack of dissension is it's not safe to do so, and there's something in the culture, either company-wide, department-wide, or team-wide, that's got to get addressed.
Agreed, especially safety. So I'm going to take this from a little bit of a different angle, and I know we have this conversation a lot in our house, is like, gender, is this a male thing? Is this a female thing? And I will say for women, historically, for centuries, thousands of years, it has not been safe for women to dissent. And so we are programmed not to dissent. I still have, even though we are more evolved, I still have, conditioning that I have continued to bring into our relationship and basically my life from learning from my mom that you don't dissent. Her learning from her mom, centuries. Like, I can't even tell you how far back it goes, that speaking up and going against what is being done, said, or modeled does equate to harm. And I think people need to hear this from both perspectives. Of women need to understand everybody's afraid that there's gonna be harm. I think that is a primitive, natural, habitual response, that if you go against the grain, there's going to be harm. Period. I don't care, man or woman. I don't care how you identify. And again, we speak very heteronormative language here. So for women, we need to start practicing more the art of dissension and proving to ourselves that dissenting does not always come with some type of harm. And then from the male perspective of some empathy and compassion and understanding, like, oh, well, that makes perfect sense. Rather than saying, well, why didn't you just speak up? Why didn't you just tell me you wanted the dishes done? Why didn't you just, say to John in the meeting? And I'm getting like that because this is, my male ego. Like, why didn't you just say to John or Bob in the meeting, like, you interrupted me, please stop talking. Or I don't agree with the way that you're delivering this. It's not that simple when you are looking at history of, and I hate to say it, but there's a lot there. Being burned, being beaten, like literally, like women would put face masks on women in the 17th century. if they were too mouthy to their husbands or they had too much of opinions, and then they were paraded through town as the example, and it was like Hannibal Lecter type shit. So everybody needs to be aware. I guess this is a long-winded way to say, but it's important that everybody needs to be on the same page and come to the whatever it is you're trying to do, right? Like come to the understanding that we are all afraid of some type of retaliation. And that's really what we're doing is self-protection. And there's a lot more, quite frankly, that comes with it from being a woman than being a man. Mic drop, off my soapbox. But no, I'm not off my soapbox, actually. It's a passion of mine. It's really important to understand both sides.
I would maybe emphasize one point, which is, yes, there are historical influences. And I think we don't need to go that far back necessarily when we think about just you and I from a root cause perspective, right? The way my mom acts and behaves and the way I was raised is significantly different than your mom. And we see these tendencies. My mom did not give a shit what society said, what Dave Palmer's mom said, right? Everything was what she was trying to instill upon me. And without even knowing it, what she was instilling and teaching was, it doesn't necessarily matter what everybody else says, even though I have FOMO, which is really kind of interesting that I'm saying this now. But my mom was not shy to speak up in any forum that I was ever part of. And yes, I had to learn how to speak up for myself in a respectful, courteous, professional way. But now I'm being a little bit long-winded to say that I was taught to speak up, right? That's my root cause. Your root was not to.
Very much so. And not just from my mom, but quite frankly, from my other relationships, sometimes from society. So sometimes I dissent, with my corporate career. There would be or was retaliation. And you're right? We talk about, you and I talk a lot about like old story, new story. Like sometimes you got to go into new story. You cannot continue to live in old story and drag that shit with you for the rest of your life if it's not serving you. So that's the and of new story is, yes, this has happened to women and it still continues to happen to women. We're not denying that. And we also have to practice dissenting so women can get stronger. They can show other women how to do it. The person on the receiving end, let's just say it's a man, let's go male, female here, can start getting used to experiencing it. It becomes more normal and not so generational and so conditional and so old story, new story. That's how the change happens. All right, we're going to move on from that one because we're getting really close to the end of this. Vanishing values. Organizations like people need clear values to guide decisions and behaviors. When values are compromised in favor of profits, the foundation of what you're built upon crumbles. You do a lot of coaching on values. So I'm going to let you take this.
Yeah, it's integral to my style of coaching, and I think the best way to describe it is just to be linear, and a little bit of a story. So my very first coach, Chrissy, hi Chrissy if you're watching, she took me through a values assessment that, with her permission, I made electronic, and it's on our website, so anybody could take it for free. And the way that I use it is when one takes the values assessment, they're going to get their top 10 to 15 values prioritized in an unbiased fashion. From there, we typically work with the top 5. Of course, I shouldn't say of course, everybody has their own margin of error. So if someone wants to do 6 or 7, it doesn't matter. This is a little bit more free form for the individual, but I focus on the top 5. With that top 5, we define it. So what does each of those top 5 values mean to you? What is it? What isn't it? How does it show up in life? How do you know when you're compromising it? How do you know when other people are stepping on it or starting to disrespect that value? The top 5 are the most telling in my work. And then based upon those 5, we use it as a barometer or a gauge. If we make this decision, how does it align or misalign with these top 5? If this other person does this thing, how does that respect or disrespect those top 5? So what it starts to do is clarify pet peeves, non-negotiables, why we're upset, where life is out of alignment, where we're bothered, et cetera, et cetera. So when we get to root cause, using the values, it's almost like taking a pro and con list and giving it steroids, because it's not an arbitrary, I like this or I don't like this. It is more of a, maybe a laser focused or a direct focus on not just what I like or dislike, but how does these things of life compare or align or respect or honor these top 5 values?
So there's values within human beings. What about values within an organization? So I think that businesses can and should be built on a set of values. You need some guideposts. You need to know kind of what you stand for, and I think everything then is built around that. So are you saying that, let's say company A, right, exhibits these values, and then client has completely different set of values? So are you saying then that that's usually when you see, well, I'm making this up, but I would imagine like you're unfulfilled, there's a lot of resentment or resistance or lack of understanding or frustration, or like it's like going to a party and they're not your people. It's a lot of fucking work. And then you go to a party and they're all your people, and it's actually gives you energy and life. So is that something that you see in your coaching?
It's a yes and, I mean, we can have different values, respect our differences, and still have a good time at the party. So it's more about how we respect each other's differences, commonalities, etc. The way I always describe it to my clients is, if you have a high value of family and your job is regularly demanding or asking you to not be home for dinner, not go to Joey's soccer game, declining PTO, well, clearly you're going to be pissed off, or very simply put, your values and the companies are misaligned. They don't value your value of family. So no matter what, you're going to be trying to fit into a value set that you don't agree with. And we can fake it for only so long.
Okay, that makes sense. So we have 1 minute left and we still have one more take 5. Can you go a little bit longer?
No, I have a 10 o'clock.
Well, that's poor planning on your part. Okay, so maybe you should block a 15-minute buffer.
Maybe we should be more concise.
Touche. All right, you got 1 minute. Look in the mirror. Real change starts with radical honesty about our own habits, beliefs, and blind spots, and requires moving, excuse me, beyond the comfort of quick fixes, hacks, to tackle root causes head on.
I can sum this up real quick for myself, because this is real for me. Until I got let go from a job I didn't want to get let go from, and I think it was in 2008 or 9 or something, all of my problems were this. It was you, it was the weather, it was my boss, it was my coworker, it was never me. It was always this. And so I was always this helpless victim because I blamed everybody else that I had no control over. Until I looked in the mirror and said, I am the problem. I am the solution. I am the commonality in all of my situations of life. Until I took that ownership, I had zero control. But the funny thing is I thought I was totally in control. So long-winded way to say is until you're willing to look at yourself as the cause and solution to all of your challenges, I say all more facetiously or as a matter of speech, but until you're willing to take ownership of you being responsible, then you're kind of fucked.
You're the bullet wound and you're the silver bullet.
Well said.
All right, 10:01. You're gonna be late to your call. Thanks everybody for listening. We're gonna be back here. Are we back here next? What is
Yes.
next week? Okay, we're back here next Tuesday, 9:15. What are we talking about next week? I'll tell you. Oh, different perspectives. We haven't quite flushed that one out, y'all, but we're gonna be back here 9:15 next Tuesday. All right, see you next Tuesday.
Bye.